The opinions expressed on this show do not necessarily reflect the views of the Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network.
Hello everyone and welcome to Connecting with Kim here on Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network. I'm your host Kim Droege and we are so glad you joined us today because obviously we have another great show coming up that helps you live your best life in our corner of paradise. But before we get started, I would like to ask you to like and follow our Instagram, Facebook, and X account so you can find out all the information about the show, the broadcast schedule, the guest, their passion, or the subject they're here to talk about, as well as my on-air wardrobe that is courtesy of the Spring of Tampa Bay Boutique, which is located at 4415 West Osborne here in Tampa. And the net proceeds from the boutique and the thrift store support their mission, providing safe spaces and empowering services for survivors of domestic violence and their children. And they do an excellent job. So please make me happy and go and shop there. And no, I do not keep everything that I model because I would need another house for all the closets because they have such great stuff. You could also listen to the audio of our show on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on Sun Radio, 96.3 FM, and on your favorite streaming platform at 3:30. We started as a radio show, and we kept our radio spot because we really value what we do. So we want to give a huge shout out to Sun Radio and Vern Hendricks in particular. So I'm so excited to introduce my guest today because I wanted to have him on the show for a long time, and it's just a fluky little thing. Sometimes God, you just put it out there, you manifest it in the universe, and the universe answers. And so I had an opportunity, and he had an opportunity, so we are here today to talk to you, and you will be blown away, I promise you. So let me introduce you to Gary Hartfield, who is an entrepreneur and a community advocate, but he is so much more than that, and we're going to find out all about that, or as much as we can today. Welcome, Gary, to Connecting with Kim.
Thank you, Kim. It is such a pleasure to be here with you.
Well, we're delighted to have you because you've been on my radar and on my wish list for quite a while, so it finally happened, and I thank the universe for that. So
Yes.
We start the same way every time because it's so important for our guests to be able to share a little bit about their life journey because you never know when somebody's out there watching and listening that shared something in common with you. So take as much time as you want and
Yes. So my life journey, it's a short story, an interesting story, but a short story. So at the ripe old age of 54, I've been blessed to kind of transition from a small town in the Panhandle here in Florida. I'm a Florida native, one of the last remaining few. Born, bred, educated there in a small town, Walton County.
Okay.
So the south end of the county, there's Sandestin and Destin area. Mm-hmm. The north end of the county is a little bit more rural. The great thing about growing up in small town America is the community. Mm-hmm. And my parents were very involved in the community. They were great stand-up members of the community. And I learned through them how to demonstrate that same behavior for my kids as well as just show up for my community. And so I played football, I played baseball and sports there in the community, and we did pretty well. And from there, I transitioned to Florida A&M University, and I completed my degree there at Florida A&M in electronic engineering. So I was able to muster up the will to complete that degree. Then I transitioned into higher ed. I was the first African-American professional at Florida Southern College in Lakeland, Florida.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Something to be proud of.
Absolutely. You may ask, well, you majored in engineering and you ended up in higher ed as an admissions counselor. How did that happen? So one of the things I want to make sure that I communicate to young folks as well as parents and guardians is that we make sure that our parents have a part in the decision-making process as students get ready to transition into college. However, they do not make that decision for the young person.
Right.
The young person ultimately is their life, right?
Right.
And sometimes parents want to live vicariously through the kids, or they want, the kids to be an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer or whatever that may be, and somehow bring some level of maybe pride and those types of things to the parents. And all of that's good, right? But
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
yeah, let the kid do that based on their own interests and purpose and passion. So my parents, who at that time hadn't graduated from high school, they wanted me to be an engineer. Kim, I wanted to be a psychologist. Yes. Absolutely. So
I took philosophy. I wanted to be a philosophy major, but I ended up being an econ major. So.
oh wow.
Yeah,
So you feel my pain.
Yeah.
What happened was it was a struggle. Most engineering majors who want to be an engineering major,
Yeah, they do.
they struggle because the curriculum is physical science based. It's math, it's chemistry, it's physics, and they want to be in that major, so they kind of struggle through it, but they want that struggle. They want to accomplish that goal. Now imagine wanting to be a social scientist, not a physical scientist, wanting to be a social scientist.
It must have been hard for you.
Very hard.
Yeah.
So I was able to endure. I learned some great analytical skills.
Right.
And it taught me some very important life lessons. A lot of the time I wanted to quit, Kim.
I'm sure you did, but perseverance is a hallmark.
It is a hallmark. And more importantly, as a hallmark, you take that trait into your adult life.
Exactly.
So when life shows up, adversity shows up, and those times when you want to quit, you remember that you have that intestinal fortitude to keep going. And that's honestly what that undergraduate experience was about for me, was not quitting. It's about persevering through the hard times and continuing just to show up.
Just show up.
Yep. So I persevered through, started at Florida Southern College. My mentor was the president, and is the president currently. We maintained our relationship for the last 30 years. His name
That's
is,
fabulous. I love that.
yeah, Dr. Thomas Rusling. And he's still my mentor and continues to help me thrive as a professional and a father, and just as a member of the human body, right, and the human community. So what did that mentorship look like? It looked like this one lesson that I share with everyone. He said, Gary, every time that you show up at a college fair, if you're showing up at a school, wherever you're showing up, get there early and stay late. Now,
We're laughing because he was a little late to this interview, so I'm laughing about that.
Ironically, I was a little late today. But the idea, though, was to get there early and to stay late. Now, I didn't really understand it when he first shared it with me.
Right.
But because I believed in his leadership, that's what I did. How did that show up later on in life? And even as I continued to grow in my role there at Florida Southern, as other professionals would see me traveling out on the road, they saw me show up early. I was the first one setting up and the last one tearing down. As administrators were looking for their next employees, guess who the person was that they were calling on?
You.
Absolutely. So it taught me that skill in that skill set.
It also teaches that lesson that a lot of us forget, is that somebody's always watching.
There you go. So important. I couldn't have said it better, Kim. So someone's always watching, and you're exactly right. And they were, right? As I continued to grow in my profession, my credibility went before me. They knew I was the guy that showed up early, that interacted, that made sure that my job was completed, and I was the last one to go. I made sure that every guidance counselor, every principal, every student was served. And I love my job. I absolutely love my job. I poured myself into it 100%. So from there,
Yeah, because you brought up that magic of 54, you transitioned. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, something must have happened.
yeah, so from there, I transitioned into grad school at the University of West Florida, completed my MBA. And here's, again, that lesson in life that we talked about. Someone's always watching. So I had a job offer at Florida A&M University before I completed my master's degree. So I started work May of 1999 in the College of Engineering, where I graduated from at Florida A&M. And I didn't graduate until August of 1999. So here I was completing this master's degree. My advisor in the MBA program said, hey, we'll work with you. You completed your assignment. So our job in you completing this MBA is to help you transition into a career, right?
Yeah.
So we were able to complete that 5 months early. Let's help you complete this MBA, complete your assignments, make sure that you're able to work through it in a way that doesn't conflict with your job.
Right.
But you still hold to the rigorous standards and keep the integrity of the program. So I was able to do that, and I completed my MBA August of 99, and I had been in my job 5 or 6 months at Florida A&M. So I'm there and I'm loving it. I'm right back in this arena where I love to exercise my professional skills and also to learn, which is higher ed. And I'm working with students.
Which is kind of ironic because
Yeah.
at the beginning of the show you were kind of like, I didn't really want to do this.
Yeah.
My parents wanted me to do this, but I did it anyway. Okay,
Yeah.
you kind of come full circle. I'm like, but now he's loving it.
I'm loving it. But you know what I love is that I'm in a role now where I can share expertise. I can share knowledge in a way where parents and students are able to learn from my experiences and hopefully, not have some of the difficult lessons that I had to endure. Because I don't think all of those lessons were necessary, but for me, they were formidable. They were things that I had to endure in order to shape me into the man that I am today.
People ask me, like, did you ever envision that you'd be doing this now? I'm
Yeah.
like, no. And people would say, well, you should have been doing this before. And I'm like, no. The way I look at life, and I think you're voicing the same thing, is the culmination of all of
Yes.
those experiences,
Yes.
good or bad,
Good or bad.
make you the person you are at this moment
Yes.
and enables you to take advantage of opportunities, right?
It does. It absolutely does.
If you go back and change any of those
Yeah.
things in the past, even
Right.
if you could, right?
Right.
You might not be the person you are today.
That's so true. But you know what? Human nature always asks, could I have changed this? Right? Could I have made this a little bit easier? That's just human nature. But no, you're right. You're right. All of those things work together for our good.
Pieces of a puzzle, right? They
Absolutely.
all come together and make the total picture.
There.
Okay, so you're back at A&M and you're, okay, this is so, I'm still waiting until we get to the 54 something happened.
Yes. So I'm back at A&M and I'm looking at higher ed as a career path, meaning to become the president of a university. And so the next step was to pursue a PhD and start working towards administration or higher administration in the higher ed arena. So I became a little disenchanted with the process. I mean, I had to learn, maybe I was a little naive. There's a little bit of politics in everything that we do.
Everything.
Right? Yes.
Plus, to be in that position, you also have to be a published author.
Yes.
I mean, nobody gets to be president of a university without being a published author.
Absolutely, yes. I started looking at that opportunity and I said, well, is the PhD route, is the higher ed route where I want to go? I got an offer. I'm sitting at my desk and one of the professionals in higher ed that I worked with some 10 years before that time called me and said, hey, I'm at this company here in Orlando, corporate, private company. They hadn't gone public yet, but they were in the process of going public, releasing their stock to the public. And she said, Gary, I think you'd make a wonderful analyst, lead analyst for our company. Will you consider it? We're going to be in Tallahassee at a recruiting fair. And I know you just finished your MBA, and we're desperately seeking MBAs. And I know your work history. You got to work early.
And you were the last one to
And
leave.
I was the last one to leave.
So this is a good chance for us to just take one moment and reintroduce my guest in the chair today is Gary Hartfield,
Yes.
who wears many, many, many hats. But the one we're talking about, well, entrepreneur and community advocate, but we haven't got to some of the other hats. But. Continue. So you
Yes.
get this phone call,
Yeah.
you get this great opportunity, and you're like,
this great opportunity. So let me tell you, Kim, because the rest of my life actually pivots from this point.
Okay, so now we're at the, okay, good.
So this young lady calls and says, "Hey, we are hiring and we want you.
And we want you."
Meet us at the career fair." I was offered a job there at the career fair, but during that time, if you remember, there were opportunities for signing bonuses as well as kind of relocation bonuses that were absolutely insane.
Yeah, a little different world then.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did that happen? It literally happened, one, because of the credibility I had established 10 plus years ago working with this professional in higher ed, right? She was at Stetson University and I was at Florida Southern in the same roles. So she's now at this corporate entity as a human resource development officer, and I'm at Florida A&M. I transitioned to this corporate entity, and with the transition came a huge signing bonus and a huge relocation bonus. So I took part of that money and I bought my first investment home. So I bought the home, believe it or not, for $22,000. $22,000.
Yeah, that's like, ooh.
Yeah. So it was a 3-1. Had newly been built. It hadn't been built no longer than 5 years.
Now, when you say investment home, does this mean that you were going to like invest in Florida real estate and then flip it and then, keep building your real estate portfolio, or did you invest in it for another reason?
Invested in because my parents said, "Gary, invest in it."
Yeah. Land you can't take land away from you.
There you go. The idea was even beyond what I was thinking at that time.
Yeah.
They understood
Yeah.
that land in real estate
Yeah.
is the best investment that you can make. If you look at all of our leading wealthiest people in this country and abroad, the hub, the center spoke of their will is always real estate.
It's a way to build wealth
Absolutely.
for a lot of people, and it's traditionally been
Yes.
a great way to build wealth.
Absolutely.
So.
They advised me, "Hey, buy this property." I bought the property at $22,000. It appraised for about $70,000. So here I'm in a position now with a little bit of equity, and I'm in corporate. My sister comes to me, my youngest sister, Tammy, and says, "Hey, let's start on this entrepreneurial track. I want to work with the elderly and the developmentally disabled." And I did the research. And I said, okay, this makes sense. Especially, she was working in Pinellas County at Columbia Restaurant at the pier in St. Petersburg. She was a waitress, recovering addict. She was a cocaine addict. She was a recovering addict, 5 years clean.
Good.
And so we started working on the business plan and working to make this dream come into fruition.
Now, is this how Serenity Village comes to fruition?
Yes, you get
Well,
the
I
head of me,
did.
Kim.
No, but I did my research.
So yeah, this is how Serenity Village comes into being. We finished the business plan and we're working on closing on the first business. December 21st, 2002, we find a smaller facility in Seminole, Florida, here in Pinellas County. 8 beds and 1.5 employees. We buy it for $200,000. How did we afford the ability to buy this property? I took some of the equity out of that investment property that my parents advised me to buy. And that's how I was able to put the money down to start the business. So again, my parents show up in this story, and also now my sister's an integral part of the story.
Yeah.
And that's family.
Yeah.
December 21st, 2002, we close. We go to, I believe, Macaroni Grill, Italian restaurant, and we have lunch. We're celebrating, and we're thinking, wow, it is close to Christmas. What a major milestone. And we're headed into this great trajectory, right? So December 22nd, the next day, about 12 hours later, I get a phone call from my dad, and he's telling me they cannot get my sister to breathe.
Oh, no.
And so I'm thinking over her lifespan, and when she's dealt with addiction, we've had some troubling times where she wasn't her
Right.
best self.
Right.
So she'd be missing for days, and she may have some run-ins, maybe some physical altercations, and so I figured she'd be okay. However, he calls me back maybe 15 minutes later, and my sister has passed away.
Oh my God.
She took an overdose of Oxycontin. So some 20 plus years earlier, the opioid epidemic,
Yeah.
that was my experience with it. But, however, here it is Christmas.
And you've just made this major milestone, and
Yeah.
you're in business together, and
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
thank you. So,
I did not expect this story to take this turn. I'm going to be honest with you, okay?
yeah.
Kind
so,
of verklempt now. I'm like, threw me for a little loop. Okay, so.
nice. The idea was we were going to celebrate Christmas, right?
Right,
With our
right,
family. Celebrate
right.
this milestone with our
Right.
family.
Right, now you're not celebrating.
Now, for Christmas in 2002, we're planning the funeral services of my youngest sister. And I have to make the decision of, do I try and rescind this offer? And the little bit of money I had saved and the little bit of equity that I had in this property to somehow, pull that back.
Right.
Or do we continue her legacy?
Yeah.
So,
Well, I know what decision you made, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But we had learned not to quit.
Not to quit.
Yeah, through adversity, through troubled times, through whatever life shows up, however life is lifing, we had learned at Florida A&M not to quit. So my first book, Stand, and we'll talk about that if we have a little bit of time, is...
Well, if you want to talk about it,
Yeah.
we got about 5 minutes or so left. So if you want to, because you wear so many hats, I can't possibly get through them all.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about being an author too, we should do that right now.
All right, so let's do it. So
Okay.
the first book, Stand, when I was at Florida A&M, I'm literally crying on the side of the road on a payphone, and I called my mother because I wanted to quit, Kim. I wanted to go back home where it was safe and I knew the environment.
Yeah.
And my mother's words were, stand. And after you've done everything that you've done, Gary, and I'm thinking in this moment, I've done everything possible, Kim. She said, I want you to stand anyhow. So that comes from the Bible. It's Ephesians 6 and 13, I believe. And so that transitioned me from a boy to a man. I could no longer go back home. I could no longer count on those things that my mother or my parents would provide for me. I had to stand as a man. So I wrote my memoir, Stand, in 2015. And here in 2024, I published my second book, The Journey to Success. I talked about in that book the anecdotal stories that really helped me in this journey to financial success, but not only that, success in life and in business.
Because success, especially, my parents were Depression parents, right? Very
Yes.
poor.
Yep.
And I'm an only child and a girl. So you can imagine that the pressure I was putting under growing up. But
Yes.
you are going to go, you're going to do this and you're going to do that. Well, everyone's definition of success is different, right? And sometimes your parents, they wish things for you that they look from afar and say, that's success. But sometimes until you're in the middle of it,
Yes.
you're experiencing it, then you say, well, it could be success,
Yeah.
it might not be success,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Because everything in life comes at a cost.
Yes,
Everything.
Everything.
You don't get a free ride.
Yeah. Nowhere. No, you're absolutely right. And success, as we define it in the book, means whatever precisely as you said it means for you. So now success for me looks
And it changes
like,
over time, right?
and it changes over time. So it looks like, how do I build a platform for my kids? How do I build a platform for the community? That to me now is what success looks like. It's no longer financial success. It's no longer the number of clicks on social media. It's no longer the number of properties that I hold. It's how do I pour into people and see them blossom and realize their true potential.
I love this because at a certain point, it's like, how much more money do I need to live good? You
Absolutely,
know?
yes.
And how many more things can I acquire? Because I'm an econ major, so
Yes.
the law of diminishing returns is very
real.
true, right?
Yes.
It's very real. Because your first little thing that you covet, that you get, yeah, you get a lot of return from that. But when it's your 15th thing, it's like, this might be a good chance to take an opportunity, because you and I talked about this before we went on air, that I know to speak directly into your camera and talk about that message that you want to give.
Thank you, Kim. The message that I would share to my younger self is there's a motto and a mantra that I have, and it's called learn, earn, and return. So there is a time for structured learning, whether that's vocational or post-secondary in a college or university, and there's a time to earn. And for me, earning looks like conscious capitalism. Now, there's capitalism, and there's greedy capitalism, and there's conscious capitalism. I prefer and I recommend that conscious capitalism be an inherent part of your growth process. And then finally, the last part of that, and this is the most important, is that you return. So returning means pouring back into your community, into your family, and making sure that we build strong individuals. And if we have strong individuals, we'll have a strong community. If we have a strong community, we'll have a strong city. If we have a strong city, we're going to have strong states. If we have a strong state, we'll have a strong country. So it is an important part of the process of evolution and growth that we learn, that we earn, and that we return.
Oh, I love that. I'm totally stealing that from you.
I love it. It's yours.
But I'm giving you fair warning.
Yes, thank you.
Well, Gary, I can't tell you what a pleasure it's been to have you on Connecting with Kim. I am so glad we finally got this.
It's been my pleasure.
And you have so much more to talk about. So we will look at getting together in the future again.
Yes,
because we
I
didn't
would
cover
love to.
all of your hats, because you
Yes.
wear so many. But thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
If you just joined us today on Connecting with Kim, my guest in the chair was Gary Hartfield, who is, amongst other things, an entrepreneur and a community advocate, and definitely someone who's giving back. So go back now and listen and watch the entire episode. That's all we have time for today on Connecting with Kim. I'm going to give another shout out to my sponsor, the Spring of Tampa Bay, who provides safe spaces and empowering services for survivors of domestic violence and their children, and provide my on-air wardrobe. And I always want to give a shout out to my family and crew here at Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network for always making me look great. So come back next week for another edition of Connecting with Kim. So long.